I started off talking to people about presentation skills, especially perhaps because I'm here in the Caribbean and I just can't sometimes understand why people mumble, why they walk and not show that they are confident. And then somebody says, well, why don't you do something about it? And I thought, well, why am I teaching everything? Why don't I just get the experts? So I asked some people, or Lawrence, who I'm sure is just stuck somewhere. I asked them to basically talk about these things. How do we deliver ourselves effectively? Hi, Malik. Lovely to see you in the crowd. Malik is my long-term friend. I like it when guys come in here. These are people I love and respect. Apostle Maggie, who is Joan in Barbados. So we've got two in Barbados, we've got London, we've got Guyana.
London.
Steve, you're international.
Dreams come true.
We've got Emmanuel Bollers, that's another man. So I like it when we've got different people, different guys and women who want to learn a little bit more. So we'll start with you, Steve.
Yeah.
Tell them first how to pronounce your name, and then secondly, what do you do for a living?
Well,
I try to let other people in.
No worries. Yeah, my name's Steve Beckles-Abusier, and I'm from London. A motivational and soft skills trainer. So what I do, I'm going to school, to college, universities in the UK, in Europe, and in the States, talking about the power of beliefs. Now, we were talking about presentation skills. 9 times out of 10, when people are nervous about presenting, they don't believe they can present well. Does that make sense? So everything you do starts from your belief system. The clothes that Malik and Dunette are wearing and yourself, Sherry-Ann, is based on your belief systems. And your belief systems really carry what you say and what you do. So when I'm on stage, I'm asking people what they actually believe. And so my orange is a big thing. I'm also known as a speaker of the orange tie guy. So I don't know if you're going to notice this. You've got to notice it. Yeah.
You always have this orange tie on.
Yeah.
It's also orange socks, right?
Yeah, this is it. I've got an orange car. As you can see behind, look, this is no joke. This is my house. This is my house.
You love orange.
Now, the reason I chose orange is that I read about 12 years ago that the American Indians said that orange represents learning and growth.
Right.
And one of the things I realized is that color has power. You'll agree on that. You wear certain colors and you feel an energy. And I chose orange because it represents 6 qualities. The first one is energy. So when I'm on stage, as you probably see me a little bit, it's about giving that energy, what you want to give to others. Orange is also a very bold color. It really stands out. I mean, if you left something bright orange in a room, someone is likely to make a comment, why? Because it stands out. And the thing is, you're unique. Your fingerprint's the only thing which is unique to you. So that uniqueness, that boldness is important. Bright is not like academically bright, but being positive. Right. People, especially during this whole lockdown, and I do understand where a lot of them are in this mindset saying, Steve, I just don't know where this is going to end. Every day above ground is a good day for me. So it's about being bright. Vibrant. I don't know if you've ever been in a room before. When someone's eating an orange. Because what happens, there's the molecules that bounce, and all of a sudden you can smell that. It's also engaging, which when you're on stage, you have to be. And you spoke about presentation skills, but probably most important of all is memorable. And whenever I'm doing Facebook Lives or whenever I'm speaking on stage, I need people to remember what I've done. So speaking of the orange tie, if you ever Google that, you ever type in Steve Orange Tie, I actually come up on the search, because I think it's Einstein said that geniuses think on paper. So being memorable is really so important. So with that message, I encompass what I do, being engaging, bold, bright, vibrant, engaging, and memorable is in my talks and what I'm delivering. So belief systems is my strength in what I do. And like you said, with presentation skills, if you don't believe you're going to speak well, I guarantee what happens, it affects the way you actually present. So that's my thing in what I do. And I've been doing it now for about 20 years now. I used to teach.
Know. I think we've known each other for at least 15
I know.
years.
Yes.
although we know each other, but haven't actually touched.
You know, this is it.
Social distancing.
Exactly. Everyone's going, what does she mean by that? But no, it's true, because the amount of things that you're doing around social media, and I think it's important us being together, because this is where we learn from each other. Yeah. So
I love that. So I'm going to start asking you the questions, because I don't know where Paul is. He's probably stuck somewhere anyway. But what I am actually, I'm going to pull out some of the questions, then I'm going to open it to the audience as well. So you guys start writing down your questions. Don't think that you're going to sit there and not participate. It's raining today. It's pouring. It's pouring to the point where, you know, you can't walk in this. It's just like heavy rain. You know, when you run in the rain, Sherilyn would understand. So presentation skills. It's about delivering the effectiveness or making you more effective.
Absolutely.
It's about engaging in presentations and to any audience. So it could be like you're at a wedding and somebody comes to with a video and asks, well, what do you think about the wedding and the people that got wedding? It's about prepared and not going, which I've seen many a times, particularly here in the Caribbean. It's about the areas of structures of that presentation. So I can see you there, Carol, laying down in your bed. Hello, at least she's here.
Exactly, Carol.
It's about your tone of voice and body language that you convey.
It is,
so,
okay.
Those are the things you teach. So I just want you to go through.
Let me help you out.
Presentation skills.
Very important. Okay, thank you for that. So first of all, let's look at 3 components whenever you're presenting. Okay, a guy called Dr. Albert Mehibaham said that when 2 people are talking face to face, there is words, tonality, and body language. Okay, now all 3 of those represent 100%. Okay, now each of them added together will come to 100%. Now, with words, what do you think? What percentage do you think words are? How important do you think words are in a conversation face to face? What percentage? Give me some numbers. What do you think? Out of 100, 2 people talking, what percentage do you think words are?
So I want you guys to write in the chat area as well, so we can get back to it. What percentage? So if that question to me, 50%?
No. I think Malik's on it already. I've seen Malik's response. He's got 7%. Any other responses? He's got 7% for words. Any other responses?
10.
10% now. Okay.
10.
Okay. Any other ones? Face to face, 2 people speaking.
Lazy people, come on. Right in the chat area. What do you think?
2 people speaking.
2 people
20%.
What's the percentage of words?
20%. Yeah. So just words. If I was just words, how effective would that be? Well, look, let me tell you now. We've got 20%. The actual amount is 7%. Malik, you're spot on. 7% of what you say face to face is actually relevant. Now, when I first heard that statistic about 15 years ago, I thought, come on, 7%? Nah, it must be more than that. But it's not. And I'll explain shortly why. The next one is tonality. How much do you think tonality is? Now, we've done words, so 7% is gone already. How much do you think tonality is? So the way you vary your voice, how relevant that is. Now, remember, 7% is gone. You've only got the 93%. So how much do you think tonality is worth out of 100? Now, 7% is gone. How much have you got left? Hello, young lady. How are you? Susan.
I'm wonderful. Thank you.
Good to see you, darling. I'm very good.
Susan,
so we've got 7% for words.
Susan's Miami. And she's one of the famous ones.
Tonality. I've got 50% there from Juliet. We've got 35%. Very close. The actual amount is 38%.
Ooh.
So the way you vary your tone will determine how well you communicate. How many times your mum called you and you knew she was angry, and all she's done is call your name? Yeah.
Yes, it depends on what she said, how she says it.
It's tonality. Yeah? Exactly. Tonality. So the last one you can work out is 55%. So if you make a note of that, 7% is words, 38% is tonality, 55% is body language. So when you're actually speaking to someone, what's come out of your mouth really is not that relevant. It's your body language which is actually carrying the words.
Wow.
Think of a truck, all right, and think of some bricks. The bricks are the words. The bricks inside the truck, and the truck, which is the body language, carries the words. Can you see?
Yeah.
So if you say to me, how many times your son, your daughter, friends, or whatever, you know when they're not telling the truth. Because the words might be right, but the body language, you think, exactly, yeah. So that's the first thing I always say whenever you're going to speak is really, don't really worry about your content. You've got to worry about your body language, because you can look at someone and know they're not confident. You can look at someone and you know they're unsure about what they're going to say to you. And how does that make you feel? You lose a lack of confidence in that person. So body language is first and most important of all. When you are speaking, the most important thing is, what I always tend to find, is to make sure you're making eye contact with audience. Now, that might sound obvious, but if you're not, how many times have you had a conversation with someone, and as you're talking to them, their eyes are drifting, they're looking somewhere else, but they're going,
yeah, or they're looking over you.
They're looking over it. The bottom line is that your eye contact is everything when someone's engaging someone. How many times you can look at someone and you can know someone's heart by looking at their eyes? Yeah, by the way they feel, by looking at them. So being able to look at someone's eyes is very important. I'm going to show you a technique to be able to maintain eye contact without feeling uncomfortable. So some people are very uncomfortable about making eye contact for whatever reason. What I'm going to do is show you a technique, and it's very straightforward. It's called the triangle technique. What you do, you get a sheet of paper, and you draw a triangle. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let me just on here so you can see it. All right. There's the triangle. Okay. So we go across here, down to here, and going up. Okay. So we can see that. All right. Now that is the area which is going to cover from here, from your left eye to your right eye, down to your chin, and back up to your left eye. All right. When you have a conversation with someone, you must imagine this being in front of their face. Okay. When you then speak to them, you imagine then going from here, look across to here, look across down to here, and look across to here. Now, when you do that in a conversation over a spell of maybe 2 or 3 minutes, what happens is that you don't actually have to look at the person's eyes. What you're doing is you're just looking at the shape of their face. Does that make sense? So what happens is that when you're making eye contact, I'm feeling confident. Why? Because you're looking at me, but I'm not staring at you. What I'm doing is I'm doing the triangle. It's called the power triangle. Now, I do that quite a lot when I'm going to meetings, especially with these high-powered CEOs that perhaps want to overpower you and they're kind of thinking they're better than you. I do the triangle. And what happens, I'm able to keep that contact, okay? Another technique is when you're talking to audiences. Often when you talk to audiences, making sure you've got all of the audience's connection is very important. And I come up with something called the Zed Technique. Let me explain how it works. Imagine looking in front of a group of people, okay? And what I want you to do, you start off in the top left-hand corner, right? And then you look and you go across the top right-hand corner, and then you come down to your bottom left-hand corner, you go across to your right-hand corner, and then you go back up to the left-hand corner. Can you see that you've done a Z? Called the Zed Technique. Now, one of the things I've found, the worst way to ever speak to an audience is when you're speaking and you're just focusing on that one side of the group or that one side of the group. The Zed Technique, it ensures that as you're speaking, you are moving across as you speak. And you've got to do, it takes a little practice, but as you speak, you change the subject, you look across, and then you might move across. Do you see what happens? And what happens, you're always engaging the audience.
Yeah. And you know, I see that does that. Obama. I
Ye-
watch him.
That
And
is so true. He does that all the. In fact, when I deliver one of my programs, I use one of his speeches to show you what he does and how he does it. Now, this guy's been trained by the very best, but you can always learn by his delivery. What he tends to do, he'll start in a corner, he'll go across, he'll pause just as you get about halfway. When he gets to the corner, he stops.
right.
And then he'll look down and then he'll start his topic again. The guy's a genius. And if you look at good speakers, look for that delivery, that being able to recognize the whole room. If you're able to do this, I talk about 55% being your body language, your message doesn't become as important as you think it is. I know you might be thinking, well, Steve, content is everything. No, it's not. It's the delivery. Because if you make me feel that you make sense, I'm going to listen to you anyway.
Okay, okay. I like that, but I want you to save the rest because I'm going to come back to you.
Okay.
Yeah, because I know that the other guest, my other guest, who's Paul Lawrence, I can see he's in the room.
Okay.
And then you have to unmute him. I'm telling her something that she does on her own, but
Okay.
I can't help being a leader. Paul Lawrence, you're here. Welcome. Where are you?
I'm here. I'm sorry about the delay in getting here, but I've been processing my Zoom from earlier. How you guys doing? Everybody okay?
Good to see you, sir.
Fine. And also, congratulations. He did a wonderful Zoom on domestic violence. And I was watching that while I was trying to get dressed. It's always good to give people props for the good things that they do, and welcome the others who are welcome to learn. So Paul Lawrence, tell my audience about you and what you do, because I know that I've sort of found out a lot about your classes, and you talk about presentation skills. So tell us about you and what do you do?
Well, first of all, hello. Good afternoon, morning, wherever you happen to be.
Facebook Live too.
All right. Look, so Paul Lawrence, just what I like to think is just an average guy. I have several professions. I have my own training company where we help people with public speaking. I deliver talks across the range, and more recently, I'm doing this series of Zooms every Sunday at 2 p.m. UK time. I like to think of myself as an accidental public speaker who recognize that if you're going to do this and you do it right, you need to invest some time in training yourself. My motto is that, good public speakers are born, but great ones are trained. And that's certainly my approach to stuff. We live in a time where there's social media, folks. For someone like me or anybody else to make a big impact, you have to be slightly better and above the rest. So I started my public speaking career when I joined the 100 Black Men of London, and they used to have their annual galas, and we were required as vice presidents to stand up in front of 1,200 people and deliver a speech. And I'd be lying if I didn't say I absolutely loved it and loved every moment of it.
Right.
But I was very conscious of the fact that if you wanted to take this sort of thing to the next level, you had to invest some time in training yourself, in perfecting your craft, in researching. And so that's what I've done for years. I've spent a lot of time reading, investing, talking to people, doing what the gentleman Steve was mentioning before, watching other great speakers and taking notes from them and ironing out what I call my natural voice. So that's it. I'm from Jamaica, so I always add Patois into it because I think Patois is my native language, and that's it. I'm 20 years in the Black Men of London. I support a range of charities, and I obviously will always support Sharon whatever she does.
Thank you so much, Paul. So I've got a lot of my favorite men in the room. Don't get jealous, ladies, please don't, I'll share them if you need me to. Paul, we were talking about presentation skills. This is what we're talking about today, how you stand how you talk, how you project yourself effectively. So give me your first tip on, Steve started with his, I think he's given us two. So can you do the same?
Okay, so I think the first two tips I'd give anyone, especially for the people who are beginners, and I don't know what Steve said, but I will say this, is understand that nerves are natural. Yep, it's very, very important that you understand that nerves are natural. People often say to me, Paul, but you're never nervous. That's not entirely true. The reality of the matter is that nerves are your body's way of preparing you to do something. That's what it's all about. And what you have to learn to do is as the book says, feel the fear and do it anyway. And so one of the things you have to learn is how to manage your fear. Yeah, nervousness, totally natural. Learn to manage that. And that's something that comes in practice. I think the number two thing, again, and I do emphasize things around managing your fear, is when you're invited to speak, recognize that you are the expert in the room. Yeah. If somebody has invited you to speak, it's because they have recognized your authority on the topic. And so if you start to enter into the room with that sort of a frame of mind, that look, Sherry's asked Paul to come and talk about public speaking, it must be because she thinks I know what I'm talking about. And from that point forward, you start to cut away some of the fear and the nervousness because you're already considered an expert. And from there, everything else follows. So those are my two early day tips.
Brilliant. So coming back to you, Steve. Thank you, Paul. I like that. Because especially the nerves bit, because people assume that I'm not nervous when I'm going to do this. Of course I'm nervous. I'm nervous from before your show starts in the morning. I'm like, oh my God, I hope the internet doesn't go down. Oh, I hope the lights don't go off. All those weird, silly little things can bring trepidation. But I also have a backup plan. That's one of the tips that I would give. Always have your backup plan for when things go wrong. Am I right, Paul?
Absolutely. Having a backup plan is so important. And I always tell people that when you're going to do a talk, get there early, double check the resources, check out the technical stuff. When I turn up for a talk, I have my talk on my USB stick, I have it on my laptop, and I've also uploaded it to the internet. Because the reality is, the more things that go wrong is the more nervous you're going to get.
Yes.
So don't set yourself up for a fall. Have all your bases covered,
Yes.
Just make sure that you're not putting yourself in a situation where if something goes wrong, you're in trouble. If you're late and you're rushing to get somewhere, then the nerves are going to double over on you. So, those are little things that just help you to control what is actually natural and the nerves.
Okay. Thank you, Steve. Coming back to you. I know you've done two tips. What's number 3 and number 4? Steve?
Hello.
Okay.
Yeah. To thank Paul very much for his tips here. Very important. I think one of the things is being on stage. I've been speaking now for near on, as I said, 20 years. And in the States, you have different audiences. I've done a lot in the States, a lot in Europe. And one of the things I've always realized is that you've got to start from where they are before you tell them where you want to go. That makes sense.
Yes.
You have to start from where they are. So I've done a lot of big gigs with Eric Swanson, Les Brown's son, and on stage. And they always start off with a story. Yeah. Because what that audience have to feel is you don't want people saying, so what? You want people saying, me too. Does that make sense?
Yes.
If you're starting off by saying, oh, well, I'm going to speak to you guys, and, I've got to, when it happened to me, what happened to me, I earned loads of money and I did so well and it was brilliant. And, I'm just so pleased that what I do. If your talk starts off with a so what, all right, the audience immediately switching off. And what I've found of any content, you'll find a lot of people have a story that you all can relate to. You look at Les Brown, who, he was on the floor of his twin brothers when he was younger. left with nothing, etc. People are thinking, do you know what? That me. So if your content can start from, and if you look at most advertising, it asks you about a pain. So you then say, do you know what? That happened to me. So therefore you have a relation with that audience. You've got to start having a relationship, because then the audience sees you as someone who can solve their problem. Why? Because you're like them. So first of all, in your content, whatever you're going to speak about, try to have an anecdotal situation where people say, do you know what happened to me? I did a talk the other day and I said very similar. It's a true story. It's actually, my car broke down. I managed to get in the time because I left really early. But when I got in the thing, I said, guys, can you believe that I got caught up in the traffic? And I saw the nodding heads already. So even though I had that mishaps in the morning, because I was giving my pain to them, and I then started my talk, they're going, yeah, that guy's like us. So relating with your audience is so important. How does that happen? It's to be yourself, but also talk about your pains, because they would have had those pains as well.
Somewhere along the line.
Somewhere along the line. And you don't have to overthink. You know, when I've taught presentation skills, people say to me, Steve, I can't think. I said, yes, you can. How many times you rushed out and you just missed the bus by about that? Yeah, there we go. Yeah, already you can say to people, anyone been in that situation? And you've got people kind of ready to be on board with you. So important. My other tip I'd give is being able to be relaxed. Now, I know that's difficult because it's all about you knowing what you're talking about. But when you are relaxed, you make people relax. How many times you watch a TV program and it might be a live show and that person's getting all anxious, answering, trying to get the question right, and you're sitting there watching, you
start going.
You're getting anxious with them. Yeah, so the point I'm often trying to say to people is you've got to go within yourself. Remember, they've came to see you. You haven't come to see them. As a speaker, I say to so many people, they've come to see you. You haven't come to see them. And once you get that in your mind, yeah, absolutely. You know, and one of the things I'm often saying, I say to my audiences, I'm excited to be here. And when people hear that, they're going, oh, what's going on here?
Oh, if you're excited, then
so I must be excited. Do you see how this all works? Yeah. So the two tips I'd give is, first of all, it's start from where they are before you tell them where you would like to take them. And then just give that feeling, even though inside it's a bit like the swan analogy, seems calm on the surface, but the legs are doing this underneath. Once you can give that audience that feeling of calmness and control, they'll feel calm for you and they'll be on your side. Very important.
But thank you for that. What I want to say is that not everybody in here is going to be presenting to an audience. It could be just personal presentation.
Absolutely.
You know, as I said, like going to being at the wedding and somebody comes to you and they come with the video or the mic to ask you a question. How do you overcome your self-defeating beliefs? The thing that says, I'm not good at this. I'm not good at this. I'm not going to speak, and then you start babbling. How do you?
Well, this ties up a lot with, because I talk about belief systems, first of all, okay? And one of the things I think is very important, I say this quite a lot, is your belief determines your attitude. Your attitude determines the way you feel. The way you feel determines the way you act. And the way you act determines what you gain in life. So if you have a belief that you are nervous, it will be seen. It will come out in your actions. Now, if you are nervous, what I often say to people, and you hear often speakers do it quite a lot, is when they're given the mic, they thank the person that gave them the mic. So, oh, thanks for asking that question. Thank you. And say to the audience, do you know what? It's the first for me. I've not had this before. And you see the connection. That's a me too. Yeah. It's not going to solve it at the beginning, because what it does, it puts you, I believe, on that level for people to say, oh, she's nervous or he's nervous, because they can see it anyway. One of the first things I always say is find a grounding and say, I've never done this before, guys. Thank you so much for giving your time. I'm going to give it my best. Because what that then does is make you feel that I'm telling it as it is, and you're not trying to be something you're not. I don't know, Paul, if you've got any techniques in your workshop that has something also that kind of talks about this.
Yeah, I think very much my workshops are designed for two sets of people. Mainly the people who are going to be doing public speaking to really big audiences, and they're doing it. But also, I like to help people who are, for example, it's in their business. So it's in the nature of their business, whether it's in terms of this could be a pitch to an investor, this could be a pitch to the bank, This could be a pitch to someone, whoever it is that you're pitching business. And I think your point is very, very valid. And that's why when we do our talks, we talk about focusing on what we call your natural voice. Yep. Because, you know, there's a whole dynamic that I go through in the sessions where we talk about the difference between, you know, someone who is highly skilled at public speaking versus someone who they're not so skilled, but because they get that sort of empathy going, even a low skilled person can still deliver their message absolutely effectively. While a very good public speaker can come over as a bit of a con man because they're just too slick. And your point, which you made, which I really like, about finding that place of empathy between yourself and your audience, connecting with your audience, that just opens up the door for them to start to relate to you, to start to see you on the right level. And it's very important for speakers because, like we said before, when you turn up, you're seen as the expert.
Absolutely.
You're absolutely seen as the expert. And so what I link into that, and it comes back to your original question, Sherry, with regards to, you know, you're at the wedding, you're asked to speak. I never speak on topics I don't know. Yeah. So that may sound so simplistic, but you go to a talk because you think this person's an expert. So if someone invites me to have a talk, there's certain things I go through. So I go through, well, what do you want me to talk about?
Right.
Is this within my range of topics? So if you're at a wedding and someone says, you know, would you like to say a word for the bride and groom, and you don't know anything about the bride, you've got two choices. You can say, no, actually, I'll give this a miss. Or you can get up and say, look, guys, as Stephen implied, look, I'm very familiar with the groom. Me and the groom really grew up, blah, 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 blah. The bride, all I can say, you have a wonderful husband. Yeah. And you sit yourself down. Never be tempted just because you have the microphone to speak.
No.
And I know that may sound counterintuitive, certainly coming from someone like me who seems to speak a lot, but don't do it. Don't take the temptation just to speak because there's a microphone. Speak on topics you know. Speak on topics you're passionate about. Yeah. Right. And if you're passionate about something, but your knowledge ain't that strong, do the research. There's a thing out there. What's it called? Google. It's a wonderful tool. Yeah. Do your research, and then you go out and you present around your thoughts and the what your research has found. But I think that's the biggest failure of a lot of people, alongside this need to talk for a long time. Yeah. You get up, you say your piece, sit down.
And sit down and stop talking, stop going on, especially when there's at those weddings. And I'm just using weddings. Of course, it relates to other things that people are asked to speak, but sometimes they go on so long and you can see people thinking, oh, for God's sake, shut up. Another place, sorry, Steve, another place, and I know people are going to kill me for this, but in church, there are some pastors that need to work on presentation skills, right? I've been to a couple of churches right here in Guyana, and there's one particular church, I love it. The story makes sense. I'm not religious to the point where I even know all the scriptures in the Bible, but the man is telling a story, and then I can follow through with normal everyday being. Then there's this other church that the man is telling a story, and I'm thinking, where's he going with this? Where's he going with this? And then he's talking in his head. And I think that is the thing about delivering to other people. Remember that you are speaking to other people, that you're not delivering, you're not delivering in your head. There are people that are listening. So the story has to have a beginning, a middle, and an end.
There we go.
Try to condense it. And then if you're asked to enlarge a little bit more on it, then you can go back, you know?
Yeah.
What do you think about
it? I was just going to and you said it there, it's just to give people a structure. Because when you've got a structure, you have change of mindset. For example, in the UK, 15th of June is a day where a lot of the shops, the non-essential shops, are opening. So just by that statement by the government, it's given me clarity to when this bit is going to end. You see, just like when you're doing a talk, if you are just going to talk without giving anyone an idea of what you're going to talk about, how long it's going to be, and just really what you would like to get, what you'd like other people to get from the talk already, there are three things which are a mystery to me. So you're off talking, I don't know how long, but I don't know what your message is, and I don't know what you want me to come away with after I've spoken. Whenever I'm speaking, I try to cover those three bases, because you're sitting there thinking, well, how long? What's this all about? And what's his message? If you're able to relay that in the first, for me, 30 seconds, already I'm feeling, right, I know where this is going. I know he's going to be finished in 15, 20 minutes time. Again, when you've got, I think it's a guy called Simon Sinek, when you're clear on your route, you can be flexible on your destination. Yeah? It's flexible where your actual route is. And so it's being able to be aware of giving people know where they're going, and then they know you'll be there in 15, 20 minutes time. When you don't do that, that's when people get, anxious. They don't want to know when this is going to finish. So important.
Love it.
I think one of the things that speakers need to remember is that first 30 seconds is when you have the greatest amount of attention from your audience. Yeah, they've turned up. They're here to hear Steve Beckles talk. They're here to hear Sherry Dixon. They're on it. They're focused. They're ready. What you say in those first 30, 60 seconds, that actually is probably one of their biggest takeaways. A great speaker is able to manage the ebbs and flows of the audience. And I always do it in reference to what I call English DJs, who, they're playing the music and no one's dancing. And it's like they don't notice. And that's because they're not connected to their audiences. And as a good speaker, and I did catch what Steve was saying originally about that Zed of scanning the room. A good speaker does that not only to connect and to make the people in the room feel that they're connected to him or her, but he does that so he's tracking his audience. Yeah. He needs to be connected to his audience so that when you start to lose them, you know. And whether you change the pitch, you change the volume, you take another route towards your point, you get there. But that first 30 seconds, as we say, that's when you tell them what you're gonna tell them. Then you tell them what you're there to tell them. And then at the end, you tell them what you told them. Yeah? Yeah. So your message is consistent throughout. Yeah. You make sure that you send them the good points when they're at their most receptive, which is at the beginning.
Okay, good. We've got some comments, and while I'm reading the comments, if you guys have a question or you may have a comment that you want to make, please put it in the Zoom group chat. Jeanette Stewart says Les Brown is one of my speakers. Michelle Doyle said yes. Lisa Nicole says that a lot. Leanne says use humor. Sometimes humor gets you out of
absolutely
trouble.
Only if you're funny. Only if you're funny.
Only if you're funny. Yeah.
If you're not funny, let that go.
That's perception driven. That's absolutely.
Emmanuel Paulus says all what you're saying here, guys, are true. Carol to everyone says, oh my God, so true. Don't be afraid to pause for thought.
Yes.
Go down. Yep. Don't be afraid to pause for thought.
Yeah.
There's another message if I can get to it. Remember to breathe out there, says it helps to calm you, helps you to connect with your audience. That's a nurse that says it's saying that. And give you Apostle Maggie Griffith says, give yourself a time limit. Ensure that your topic is covered with the relevant scriptures and divine inspiration, because of course that's what she does. And Michelle Doyle says, oh, where's it gone? That concept is critical for social media videos.
Absolutely.
Look how many people are doing social media videos, and you start listening to it and thinking, where's she going? Where's he going with this? And an hour later, you've got nothing. And Lady Winnet says, do not try and bluff through your talk.
Yeah.
Because and I agree with that. People tend to know that you don't know your stuff. How many times have I watched something and I'm thinking, you know, you spend your time looking and saying that. What do you think, Steve?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, one of the things I think is very important, I talk about this, that they did a study in Stanford University about 10 years ago. And what they said is how much you think you can learn just by observing something, just by observing. Here's the percentages: 49%, 69%, and 89%. I'm going to throw that out there and just put that in your chat. How much do you think you can learn just by observing something on a daily basis? 49%, 69%, or 89%? Just give you about a minute to maybe put some responses in there. How much do you think you can learn just by observing, just visually by watching? How much can you learn?
Well, you've got some answers in the chat.
Got some answers. Paul's on it, man. Paul's on it. Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Guys, yeah, absolutely. Everyone's got it. See, this is it. We are visual creatures. 89% is learned by visual. I said earlier about this body language, etc. We're visual creatures. I don't know if you're familiar. I'm sure Paul is. With VAC, stands for visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. In my opinion, only my opinion, whenever you do a presentation, you should try to encompass a visual of some kind, an auditory, which is speaking, and a kinesthetic. Just like Paul, I deliver a Facebook at 4 o'clock every Friday, and I've always got a prop. There's a prop, a ball or whatever. And what I do, that's my visual. Because what I do is I tie story into the ball. Because as I'm talking, I bet you're wondering why I've got this ball in my hand. There's my visual. The auditory is no. The auditory is this connection. The kinesthetic is when I'm speaking, I'm very hands anyway. But if you were delivering a workshop, it's maybe get volunteers from the audience or after volunteers. Because we are visual learners, but a lot of us are very auditory, so we prefer to maybe listen. And some of us would like to get up and do. We get kind of anxious. I don't know if you've ever worked with teenagers at all. You know, if you're not engaging them in the first 5 or 10 minutes, they're drifting. So I often have TV or a video for them to, and I have a little message on there or kinesthetic. So being aware of that, I think, is very important whenever you're delivering. And I often say when I'm training, and sometimes you might think, how am I going to do VAC? Steve, it's just a short little presentation. Listen, there's always a way to incorporate that visual, that auditory in kinesthetic. Very important. Yeah.
Important. Ladies and gentlemen, have you got any questions for our two credible trainers? That's what they are, trainers. And depend on the best question, I'll give you a mango.
Oh, yeah. You think we won't fly down there for the mango? Is that what you think?
I've got one each for both of you.
You think we won't fly down there for the mango?
Hey, Paul, she's doing her visual. See, there's a visual, your mango. Stand on there, man.
Two things. Paul, and you said funny. I did both in one go. Right? So, hey. So I can't see any questions. No questions. You guys are good. Okay. Okay, Joan, please leave details of your Facebook Zoom meetings in the chat. So both of you, could you please write down so that people can use their screenshots and take that? Paul definitely is on Sundays, and you said that
every Friday at 4 o'clock. Yeah.
And somebody says, whatever, Sherry, that's me, that's Susan. But the point is, I could sit here and just retire. I could sit here and I've had 5 mangoes. I believe that each one of us can do a webinar. There's Susan Davis, Dr. Susan Davis here, and she does other things. Susan, where are you? Come on. Yeah, she's probably gone to cook, and she's not here.
I'm right here.
What do you do while the guys write? What do you, in the sense of presentations, you do poetry. How easy it is and how effective is it to just flow when you're doing poetry?
I think poetry and writing for me is a gift. So it comes naturally. I have gotten to the place where I've accepted that. So there's no wrong and right. Everybody writes from a different place.
Your speciality, Jamaican, dialect, or do you do both? Because I know you do.
I do whatever is required. As you know, I'm British by birth, Jamaican by choice, and American by naturalization. I'm a child of the world. So I write, I do a lot. I have 2 poetry books that are dedicated mainly to Jamaica and the language there and the rhythm and the patois and whatever. But I also do a lot of different writing. As an educator myself, I do presentations, I do workshops. Sherry, you know me from I was at my knees, so you know the creative side of me. So as a writer, I do a lot of writing workshops too. Steve and Paul, thank you for your presentation. Quite apropos, I do presentation workshops too, and you've touched on everything that I do. So lots of credibility, lots of information, guys. Thank you, Sherry, for bringing them on. This is quite wholesome, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate, you know, you guys giving your time to give back to people like us, and just to help us to realize that we're on the right path, and we can reach out to each other, because we have to. Sherry, we know we live that. You have to be there for each other. I for all the years that I've known her, she knew me, as I said, from I was a child. She helped to groom me. She's my mentor.
You to cross me over the road, not true?
Yes, yes. Brixton. Ooh.
Yes. Okay, I want you to give them one tip. One tip.
Well, my book, I have a book coming out in a week, and it's called Living a Hip Life.
Hip, right?
Hip life. You should all live a hip life. Humble, intentional, and prepared. And that speaks to every aspect of our lives. And especially in this differently, you know, the era we're in right now, this differently unprecedented time, as I like to think about it, I realize that it has become so much more apropos. We need to humble ourselves, those of us who haven't in the past. We just need to humble ourselves. We need to be intentional about what we want, where we want to go. And the only way you can get there is to be prepared. You know, what does it take for me to get to the next step? What does it take for me to change the things that I'm doing? We are moving into a new era. We are forced to. So start thinking about that and just decide to live a hip life unapologetically.
And what gives you inspiration, finally?
Just people. My purpose in life, and I prayed about this some 20 years ago. I wanted, when I was getting into my 40s, I'm like, Lord, I don't want to be one of those persons who live and don't live out my purpose. I'm not sure what my purpose is. So getting up to my 40th birthday, I spent 2 years just really reaching in spiritually and otherwise, understanding what my purpose is. And I realized my purpose in life is to serve and to give back. And that's what motivates me. That's where my passion is. As long as I can touch a life, I'm not about the masses. It's just that, you know, that one drop in the water that just spins around and affecting lives and changing and being there for others.
Thank you.
Anything outside of myself.
Thank you, Dr. Sue. I also want to call out 2 people quickly. I hope Paul and Steve, you give me this time. I'm not taking away from your expertise, but it's good to call out people. Joan Ward, I know she's on there as Apostle Maggie. What inspires you? Yes, hello?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Okay, what inspires me is to give back, as Susan was saying earlier, and to serve. I have a passion for allowing people to have a second goal. My thing is for those persons who did not have an opportunity to make a first impression in their life. I allow them and I help them to make a first impression a second time. So my goal in life is to, as a matter of fact, I should say that I am a counselor that works with battered women. I am an advocate for women who suffer abuse. And that is a project that if anyone of you online now has $500,000 you can give to me, that would help me to fulfill my dream of owning a halfway house to house these women and give them an opportunity to make a second go at their lives, and also to help them to bring their children to, in a way, bring up their children in a way that they will become productive citizens in society. And Sherry, you know, I run a mentorship program for the Daughters of Destiny. With this conversation. And it is my hope that God will give me the health and the strength to be able to serve and to be able to leave a footprint for others to follow.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. I'm going to go back to the chat, Zoom chat. Somebody asked, Malik says, this is useful investment of my time. Thank you so much, Malik. Give thanks to the I can't get it out. Give thanks for facilitating this, Sherry. Blessing Steve, Paul, and Susan. Leanne asked, Paul, what inspires you, Paul? What inspires you?
I already gave an answer, but I'm happy to give it again for everybody else. I really enjoy helping my people, and I enjoy seeing that light bulb moment. You know, when you know you're trying to get a point across. Apostle Maggie, I train mentors for a number of charities here in the UK, and sometimes, you know, you're having a conversation with someone, you're training, whatever it is, and you see that moment when that light bulb goes on and they get it. That works for me. That really works for me. Not to mention getting paid, that helps. But generally, I like, and you know, before I forget, coming on this Zoom for Sherry is automatic. Yeah, Sherry taught us a phrase about sending the ladder back down, and I use it all the time, Sherry, sorry, but it's her original. She's the one who taught that to me, and so coming on something like this for her, it's kind of automatic.
Yeah, I thank you, Paul, and I really appreciate that. The reason I veered off a little bit, although we're talking about presentation skills, we have to also have a core belief, I think, a core belief that gives you that energy to keep doing what I'm doing, to be doing what Paul's doing, to do what Steve is doing. And of course, Susan and all the others, Jeanette on here, we all do something in which we're making another person feel better. I'm so grateful for Facebook. It sounds the weirdest thing to say, but Facebook actually is free, and it allows me to get to people, because how else I'd have to pay money to take out adverts. All right, Facebook, don't get excited now, because I know somebody's listening in and they'll send me something about Facebook adverts, but it is free. And if we could take a moment to motivate another person with on our journey, then we are making a difference. Lorraine Parkinson says, ditto, a very inspirational and informative session on presenting hints and tips. Okay, Joan Ward is using Apostle Maggie's Zoom. So that's why I keep saying Apostle Maggie, but it's Joan Ward is her name. And Joan, I want to mention to you, you should really go back today on Facebook Live and go to Paul Lawrence's page, because he had a brilliant discussion with, I think there was 4 women on there they were talking about domestic violence and the things that you could do or not do, or the hints and tips about how to deal with domestic violence if you can deal with such a thing. And that's another thing I like to do, is to promote other people's businesses. I don't believe that we're a one-man band. And the last thing I want to say also is don't get worried about who's doing a Zoom and who's not doing a Zoom, for goodness sake.
Yeah.
Paul, you're nodding. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you know what? I started doing my regular Sunday Zooms on the first week of the lockdown in the UK, and I've watched 10 zillion appear. And you know what? Good for them. Because the message that I can't give, somebody else might be able to give. Yeah, the person I can't reach, somebody else might be able to reach them. And so I never look at it in terms of, oh boy, everybody's on the same train. Look, my flavor, what I can do that might work for Steve, it might not work for Gillian. Yeah, it's just about that. So just use it. The platform, Facebook, is free. Zoom is free for 40 minutes if you're so inclined. If you have something to say, you have a message to get out, just hold your head down and go for it. You don't know where it's going to lead you and where it's going to take you. Yeah, and what they say, fortune favors the brave.
Thank you so much. I'd like to thank you all of you in this Zoom webinar. Thank you to my two speakers, Steve Beckles Abuse, and Paul Lawrence, my friend. Thank you very much for this Zoom, this treasure. I think it's a treasure what we've learned here today. And thank you all that's in the Zooms. A lot of you are my friends. So thank you for the support, because nowadays, you have to scratch your head a little bit. People don't support each other. But thank you. Every week, some of you turn up. And of course, to my Facebook Live audience that I can't see, but I will see the comments when we get off. I also always end every week by telling you a little bit about the person that I'll be speaking to next, and the next session. And it's a short, it's a one that hurts my heart. Malika Zibulian is a master NLP practitioner. And she's the author of No More Secrets, which shares her own journey from child abuse, domestic violence, to self-healing. She works specifically with women to enable them to break those unuseful behaviors and thought patterns that no longer serve them, which still shows up in them, in their personal lives, in their business, and even when they're married and they're in relationship. These things that happened in childhood abuse still happens. It still transcends itself, doesn't it, into your adult life. So I'm going to be talking to her. But thank you again, everybody. It was really great. If you want to revisit the conversation, then go on Facebook Live if you're on Facebook. Thank you so much. Go and have some dinner now. We'll have lunch if you're in the Caribbean. You're welcome. We'll have lunch in the Caribbean, and you other people that are not in the sun.
Yeah, you see, there's no need to rub it in, yeah, because
No. I just want to let you know that it was raining, but now the sun is out. It's just glorious, but you're all welcome to come to Guyana. You're welcome. All right. Bye.